Hi, folks. Thank you for joining the April 2024 VMware TAM Customer Webinar. The VMware TAM organization holds this webinar monthly to provide our customers the opportunity to interact with great speakers about content that will help you get the full benefit from your VMware software. I'm sure today's session is going to accomplish that. Before we get into that content for today, though, just a couple of basic announcements. Our next TAM Customer Webinar is going to be on May 9th, and we'll be discussing upgrading your NSX environment, as well as optimizing your NSX Day 2 operations. We've got a couple of great speakers lined up for those topics. Your interaction during this webinar is important, so please make use of the Q&A feature of the Zoom to ask your questions. If we are unable to answer your questions during this webinar, be sure and reach out to your TAM and ask them to follow up on the question. At the end of today's session, you will be prompted to fill out a simple 2-question survey related to the value you receive from this session and any topic suggestions for future sessions. Your completion of this survey is a very valuable gift back to us. We'd greatly appreciate you completing that. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded, and your TAM can make the recording link available to you. After a few months, the recording does go publicly available on the VMware TAM Services YouTube channel, and so you can find it and the past several years' webinars on that channel. So that does bring us to today's speaker and topic. Rupesh Shimkhada is a Senior Technology Product Manager in the VCF division and is going to be talking to us today about simplifying vSphere and VCF Lifecycle operations. So Rupesh, please go ahead.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. My name is Rupesh Shimkhada. I'm the product manager for VCF and VCF division at VMware at Broadcom. And I have been with VMware for the last 14 years. I joined VMware in VMware IT and later on transitioned to engineering and become a product manager. So I'll be covering today, what we are doing, what kind of innovations we are doing after the Broadcom acquisition, and how we are integrating our products and how we are trying to make simple and simplifying all the lifecycle operations for you. With that, let me go to my presentation. And please feel free to ask questions if you have any questions. If there are some context-specific questions, please, I would like to answer those at that point in time, or we can also wait for at the end of the Q&A session. So today's presentation, I will talk about vSphere 8, as well as I have some roadmap items I will share that are being planned or being which are going to be released pretty soon, or some are being planned. So these roadmap items are subject to change based on our priority by VMware, by Broadcom. So please don't make any decisions based on some of these future items and future items, your purchasing decision or anything like that. But then these are what we are planning to do and what we are looking at from our product perspective. So today's agenda, I will cover what is our simplified lifecycle vision and what's new with vSphere 8 and some of the roadmap items on vSphere and VCF. And I'm going to give you an overview of what we are trying to do, integrating and simplifying the lifecycle management. And we'll go for a Q&A. So lifecycle management, basically, when we are looking at lifecycle management, previously we're looking at, as you know, VMware had so many products, and every product was looking for their own lifecycle management and things like that, right? So now after the acquisition, we are one group, one VCF group, and we're looking at how we can simplify not only the product platform lifecycle management, but also how we can simplify the overall stack lifecycle management and things like that. So for that, we're looking at how we can automate, orchestrate all these upgrades and patching, certificate management, password management, something like those kind of platform level thing, how we can simplify that for all the stacks, right? And how we can streamline the software upgrades. Some components like, vSphere, NSX, vRealize, ARIA products, those products, their software upgrades, that are each one is handled differently, but then how we can still streamline them, how we can make use of your maintenance window time, simplify that and make it happen within maybe all together, or give an option if you can do that together, right? So those kind of like things that we'll be working on. And how we can integrate basically and simple, easy, reliable lifecycle workflow for vSphere as well as for the entire VCF stack, right? So, and we want to make sure that everything is secure, and so we can handle if there are any vulnerabilities, we can handle as soon as possible. So with that, so simplified operations and lifecycle management comes from the day zero, like like when you receive the server and when you're trying to build your infrastructure, right? So from day zero, we want to help automate all the deployments of your private cloud, by providing image, like something like that, imaging services and things like that. On day one, once you have the vSphere ready, and we want to help automate some of these configurations that you need to do post-deployment configurations. So we'll be automating and investing on those kind of areas as well, and then make things much more tighter integrated between our products. And on day two, will be basically like, whenever you need to upgrade and maintain those infrastructure environment, how we can simplify that, how we can provide a simple way to patch, upgrade, monitor, and then whenever you need to scale, scale up or scale down or repurpose, right? How we can simplify those kind of, workflow as well, right? So we'll be working on that. So what are our strategic investment area? So with all that, kind of a higher level vision, we are looking at reducing your disruption. That's number one key for us. So how we can reduce the maintenance window, number of maintenance windows, how we can reduce the downtime durations. So that will be a key, investment area. Another one is ease of use, how we can make things much more simple. Today, it is complicated between different integrations and product integrations. So, we want to make things simple and, also make it flexible and enough so you can actually customize to your environment, right? So, and then support for custom configurations. And then in overall, when you have a large scale environment, or from mid-size to large scale environment, we want to bring more automated tools. So out either on the product itself, or a supplementary tool. So that way you can actually use VMware's tool to manage your large scale enterprise environment, right? So and then so you can also monitor at the same time how things are happening, how your upgrades are happening, how what's the health of your infrastructure, a particular component at that point in time, right? So you will be able to monitor real time as well. So those are the strategic investment area. Any questions so far? Okay, so if not, I don't see any question Q&A.
Right. Nothing yet. Yep.
Okay, so I will dive into some of the vSphere Lifecycle Manager 8.x, and I will start with why we come up with lifecycle management in vSphere, and then jump into the 8.x, and then I will talk about the roadmap on what's coming out in the future. So we introduced lifecycle management with vSphere 7, and then the main reason for that is we thought about this, like in IT, we have been using this golden image concept for many, many years, right? So you all have been using that. With the same kind of concept, there is a concept called desired state model. So we wanted, to actually define that, what will be the image for my cluster and my host, and what will be the configuration for my image and the configuration for the host and the clusters. So define those kind of a desired state, and then implement that. So, once you have that kind of a golden image or desired configuration or desired state, then we can easily identify if there are any drifts, and then monitor them, and then help them to remediate, right? So that is, and this is with the security in mind, and as well as control of your infrastructure within large scale environment in mind, right? So that's why we introduced this desired state model. And you can define the image, define the configuration, implement it throughout your all your hosts in the cluster, or your standalone host, depending on how your environment is. So with that, we introduced Lifecycle Manager single image with vSphere 7, and we call also another name for that is vLCM. So that will allow you to actually create image for your cluster. And then you can use that image to, you can implement that image to all the hosts in the cluster. I will talk about some of the feature that we are working on, how you can customize the image that's coming out in near future, later on in the roadmap item. But for now, what I want to tell you is you may be receiving, a lot of these vendor-provided ISO images. And then I heard from many customers that sometimes the vendor, depending on which hardware vendor it is, some of them, they don't provide the ISO image as soon as VMware releases it. It takes some time. There's some lag time, right? So basically, you don't need to wait for the vendor provided ISO from vendor. What you can do is, today, if you are using vLCM, Lifecycle Manager Single Image, you can combine the base image and vendor add-on, and that is equivalent to your vendor customized ISO, because it will include all the VMware drivers as well as the vendor provided drivers. And those are available online, with, automatically, if your vCenter is automatically connect, if your vCenter is online and connected to internet, you actually even get it automatically onto your vCenter depot, right? So, but then if you are not, then you can download from Customer Connect or, Customer Connect portal, and vendor add-on, and then base image, and then you can combine those two, and then that will become your ISO image. You can also add components, and vLCM also provides you to integrate with something called Hardware Support Manager, like OMIVV from Dell, OMEVV from Dell, HP OneView from HP, right? So those Hardware Support Manager plugin will talk to vLCM, and then you can actually also do the firmware upgrade at the same time when you are doing your ESX host upgrade. So what we are trying to do here is with this, you can utilize the same maintenance window to upgrade your host for both vSphere and also for the firmware. And
Hey,
if
Rupesh,
yes,
there is one question here that's related to this, about vSphere Lifecycle Manager single image, whether it works with VCF deployments and VxRail. So I imagine you're going to get to VCF deployments at some point, but how about VxRail?
That's a great question. So let me address that. So today, VCF and VxRail, it supports, if you are creating a new cluster, it supports on a domain level. So you have to define that your workload domain, either you want to be a vLCM single image domain, or the VUM, the previous baseline domain. But that is going to change. So VCF is going to have everything vLCM workflow. That's some of these are coming out in 5.2, and then by vSphere 9.0, the release after that, early next year sometime, that will have everything vLCM workflow.
Good. What about component VIBs? Do they have to be signed?
That's okay. So there are component VIBs. If it's a customer VIB, or it is from some third-party partner from VMware, right? It depends on that. So yes, it needs to be signed. There is a program if it's from some partner that is already working and partnered with VMware. They have a tool that they can sign that VIB, and then so that is acceptable. If it's a customer VIB, created by customer itself, themselves. So that also need to be signed. But then if you are one of those customers that you have a special custom VIB for yourself that is being introduced by yourself from your company, please reach out to me via your TAM, and I would like to know more about it.
Good, thanks. And then there's one more asking about the vendor add-on or driver. How can they know which one to select?
Okay, that's a great question. So actually, on a vendor add-on, from the drop-down, you will see also the add-on will have, like, if it's a 7.0U2 or 8.0U2 or 8.0U3, the add-on will also have that marker. So they will say like Dell add-on for 8.0U2, right? So you'll find you'll see that on the drop-down. So you can identify that from the add-on.
Perfect. We've got several more storming in here. Let me, I'll collect these up and try to group them a little bit here, and then so we'll take a break in a couple of minutes. How about for more questions?
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Sounds good. Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is what we introduced with vSphere 8 during the 8.0, 8.0U1 and 8.0U2, right? So basically, we introduced support for the DPU. I don't know how many of you guys are using DPU, Smart NIC. If you are using DPU in your or testing with it, we started supporting single DPU from vSphere 8.0. And with upcoming release, 8.0U3 will be supporting dual DPU. So you can have actually the DPU in your production environment. So you're not going to have a single point of failure, right? So, and what DPU actually, so what happens with if you have a DPU in your box, right? So DPU allows you to install vSphere also on that smart NIC or DPU. So you can actually run some of the programs like NSX firewall and things like that on the DPU, right? So to do that, basically, so then you have a ESX on your host mother, the ESXi box, and as well as you have a ESXi installed also on the DPU. So that installation is the same, when you install it, it's also same workflow, but then also at the upgrade time, vLCM will take care of upgrading both the host, the server, as well as the ESXi inside the DPU. And if there are two DPUs, then ESXi, the vLCM will also upgrade both DPU and the server to the same version of ESXi. So, you don't have to worry about doing it separately. And, so once that one upgrade happens, it will upgrade everything. So next thing we introduce with vSphere 8 is basically staging the image. So you can stage the image prior to the upgrade. That way, like when you stage, you're not gonna eat into your maintenance window, right? So you can stage ahead of time, so you can save time there, and then just trigger the upgrade or remediate at the time of upgrade. So that will allows you to save a lot of time transferring the bits and all that. Also, like last minute bit transfer may have some issues, right? So you'll avoid those as well. And in addition to that, what this staging will do is if you have a HSM, hardware support manager integration, then we'll also work with the HSM to stage the firmware in your firmware via the OMIVV or these HSMs. So that way, when you are actually upgrading and on the next reboot, what happens is first it will upgrade the firmware and then it will upgrade the vSphere, right, at the same time. So other thing that we introduced with vSphere 8 was a parallel cluster remediation. So how this parallel cluster remediation works is basically if you have extra capacity and if you can put multiple hosts into maintenance mode at a time, then you have to put those hosts manually into maintenance mode, and then you can upgrade, right? So for example, you have 10 node cluster, and then, you are running on 60-70% capacity, then, maybe you can put two hosts down at a time. So if that's the case, then you can put two hosts into maintenance mode and then run the upgrade on them, and then go and again upgrade another two hosts at a time. So that way, like if it was taking, let's say, for example, 4 hours for the entire 10 node, it might take like 2 hours, right? This is just example, right? So you can cut by doing the parallel upgrades, you can cut the maintenance window time to like, much more half or much more better. Today, the one thing over there is today this maintain, you have to manually put the host into maintenance mode because DRS only handles one host to put into maintenance mode at a time. We are working on how we can enhance that feature and then make it automated, and by understanding the capacity planning and all that within the cluster. So it is we are looking at it how we can enhance that and make it automated. So yeah, for this, like, it's normally not, turned on by automatically. So you need to go into remediation settings and, select the parallel remediation, and then you can run the parallel remediation on the host. So the next one is a desired state image for the, so this image for the standalone host. When we introduce single image earlier, it was only for the cluster in vSphere 7. With vSphere 8, we started supporting standalone hosts. We have some customers, they have remote office, branch office with a single node, or some telco towers with a single node, right? So those customers, they wanted, the same single image to be applied to all the hosts in their remote offices and these remote sites. So, we started supporting standalone host with a single image. So you have a same kind of a workflow for, whenever you are upgrading either your host, they are, standalone host or the host in the cluster. It's the same experience. Only thing is there is just one host. Also, I wanted to talk about this, for some of these remote office, branch office, maybe if you have some remote locations, maybe you will be able to utilize this kind of setup. So today, our depot is available from VMware Depot. And then if your vCenter is online, then you have, it's directly connected to your vCenter. And then vCenter also has its depot, right? So, then if your vCenter is not connected directly, then you can use UMDS. So vLCM, the vCenter, you can connect to upload manager download service. And what it does is basically it's a Linux appliance. You can set up a Linux appliance, and then it will download and it can be in a DMZ. So you have like one network going to the outside and one is an internal network. So you can download the bits whenever there is from the VMware Depot by UMDS. And then, if you have that vCenter connected to UMDS, then, the vCenter will automatically pull the bits that are in UMDS from the UMDS, right? So then it will go into the vCenter Depot. Now, if you have, you may have some regional offices or regional locations, but then you are still managing from central data center, right? So if that's the case, then, to transfer the bits, you can also do is there is on the remediation settings, there is something called host override, the depot override. So with that depot override, what you can do is you can actually select one of the local, HTTP server or some within one host or something. You can select that as a local depot and then transfer directly all the bits that needed for your ESXi on that depot. So whenever next time when it remediates, actually it does not go and try to fetch it from the vCenter, and it will fetch it from that local depot, right? So that is something, if it's applicable to you guys, you can use it. And this was a feature that was introduced with 8.0U1. But then it's a lot of customers, they didn't know about it, so I wanted to just highlight about that. So yeah, you go to the remediation settings, manage depot override, and just provide the URL for the local depot.
So Rupesh, there's a question here that I think this may be related to, and Robert DePriest, if you would let us know if this doesn't answer it, but he's asking about bandwidth throttling for edge environments, is in as a feature request. But it seems like you've kind of addressed it a different way here. But do you have any thoughts on bandwidth
Yeah,
throttling?
that's a different requirement, right? So bandwidth throttling today, it happens in content library. You can do that. We are looking at how we can also utilize content library. So yeah, that is something, of course, it's in my mind. I have few other customers as well asking for it. I know I already have a item in my bucket list, but then that is something we're not currently working on, but then something that we'll be working on in the future. Um,
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. One
I
more
guess
kind
that,
of,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So I guess that will answer that question, but I know what he mean by
Uh-huh.
like whenever you're transferring the bits and things like that, then you want to transfer, you don't want to eat up the entire bandwidth because of you're transferring a big size files, right? So
Sure. But by giving them a different depot, they can maybe use a method that lets
yeah,
them
that
throttle that
can
as well.
be,
So it's a
yeah.
yeah, okay, good.
And it can be a shared storage. It can be another HTTP server, right? So, and then
Hmm.
you can transfer the bits on that particular local, storage at some other time, right?
Hmm.
So maybe utilize the bandwidth throttling of the storage system or something.
Yeah, good. It's clear from the questions that people are using this. They've been kicking the tires on this for a bit here, so they're asking some good questions. And so one of them is related to custom ISOs, um, and whether those still have a role. Can they download custom ISOs into LCM, for example?
So custom ISO is, well, if you download custom ISO, so there are two things that the vendor provides, right? So also either you're downloading from VMware Customer Connect or from the vendor, the hardware vendor. You can download the ISO. You can also download a zip file, right? So vLCM allows zip file, not the ISO image, right? So because it understands zip file, so if you can get the zip file from Customer Connect as well as from the vendors, or if you download the ISO, then you can unzip it, convert it to a zip file and then ingest it into the vLCM. Maybe what I'll do is I do have an environment, vLCM environment. Maybe I'll go later on at the session and show how to do some of these tricks.
Good. And I think somebody may be mixing up two parts of what you've said here, but you've got the depot override on your screen right now, and you referred to UMDS on the last. And so
Yes.
they're asking about an appliance available to host the offline depot. So can you configure UMDS to be an offline depot, or
Yes.
are those separate?
So yeah, UMDS will fetch the bits and binaries that we VMware release
Hmm.
from the VMware depot. And then that can be, like even though you have a vCenter online, if you want to use that instead of like connecting the vCenter directly, because for your security and compliance reason, you may not want to connect the vCenter, right? So
Hmm.
if you are prohibited to connect vCenter, then you can use UMDS, download that, and then that can be your offline depot, right?
Hmm.
So, and then what vCenter will do is vCenter will fetch it from actually the UMDS.
Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. I'll keep watching the questions, and Susie's helping with some of them too. And so why don't you go ahead and keep giving us great stuff?
Cool. Okay, so now the next part of the things are from roadmap items. So I'll show you what we are working on, how we are innovating, and some of the items that are going to be released pretty soon, right? So, and some are in the long term. So one of the things that we are going to release is vCenter reduced downtime upgrade, right? So today vCenter, when you are upgrading, like it takes a full, you need to upgrade the entire vCenter. So it brings the vCenter down from the time that you start that vCenter upgrade, right? So with this reduced downtime upgrade, we have brought the downtime of the vCenter down to 3 to 5 minutes, right? So what is happening is behind the scene is we'll actually copy, we stage a new VM as a target vCenter server. And then we'll copy all the database and configurations into that new target vCenter. And also we'll copy the services, and then at certain point, we'll just cut off and switch over that services to the new vCenter, right? And then that is the only downtime that you'll get, right? So and then after that, we'll delete the old vCenter, right? So this reduces, the downtime down to like 3 to 5 minutes. And yeah, so if so you'll see this VCF is also going to have this feature in upcoming release. So this is a great feature. A lot of customers are gonna I think like it. Any question on that one?
I don't see any right now.
Okay. All right. So the next one I'm going to talk about is ESXi Live Patch. So this came out of one of our, innovation. We have an innovation conference called Radio. And then out of that innovation conference, one of the research paper was on how we are looking at, like, we are getting a lot of this security vulnerability. Today every software is getting a lot of security vulnerability at any point in time, right? So how we can simplify this for our customers, what can we do about it, right? So and then when we look at that research paper indicated that around 70-80% of the security vulnerability actually does not require the entire host reboot. It is on certain components and things like that. So maybe we can just restart that component, and then we're good, right? So with that, then we started investing on this last year, and then we are going to release this. The first phase of this is going out this summer. That will take care of VMX related security vulnerability, which is around 30% coverage of the entire security vulnerability environment, right? So for the vSphere. So how it works is basically, definitely the security patches are within the line in the same release, right? So if you are going from, let's say, 8.0 to 8.0 U1 to 8.0 U2, those are like new feature. There will be new features. So definitely it will be a disruptive upgrade to accommodate the new features and things like that. But then if it's just a security patches and nothing has been changed, then you can actually do some of these security patches live without the host, the VM evacuation from the host, right? So the first phase will cover the VMX security vulnerability patches, and then the phase 2 will cover ESXi user space and some kernel level space. That will add another around 50% of the coverage. So overall, we'll have around 80% of the coverage on security vulnerability patches that you don't need to even evacuate the VM. Now, I know there might be some questions coming out about, okay, how about I have a big database VMs and some large monster VMs and things like that. So for some of those big, large VMs, so there is a little bit of a stunt time. So, there is also a built-in pre-checks. The built-in pre-checks will tell you like which VMs, which host can be done the live patch and which host cannot do the live patch. So we'll provide that information upfront to you, so that way you can make the informed decision on which host to do the live patch and which host you maybe can't do the live patch, right? So basically what we are trying to do here is we want you to, after VMware releases the security vulnerability patches, right? So today you still have to go and do the maintenance plan, the reboot of the host, and so even though we release, maybe it will take maybe a couple of days for you guys to implement it, right? So we want to reduce that time and simply take it as fast as possible. And at the same time, we also wanted to release the same patch that will have a metadata, saying, hey, this is live patchable, but then if customer wants to not use it as a live patch, then it will go ahead and do the reboot for we using the same bins, right? So it has a metadata which can be live patchable or not. So that's how it works. Let me show you a quick video on this. So here you can see, so you will receive the live patch bits also from the same download area in a depot in a vCenter, and it will have that bolt kind of icon, and it will have all the details of like which versions you can live patch if you are in what version you need to be and what version you need to be to do the live patch, right? So then you do the same workflow as lifecycle manager, like whenever you are upgrading. But one thing you need to do is we are not enabling this by default for like first release. So you need to go and enable that in remediation settings, enable live patch. And then once you do that, then, like you run the pre-check. During the pre-check, what will happen is it will tell you which host can be live patched, which host cannot be live patched, right? So, what happens to the VMs, evacuation requirement or not. And then also like there is like I said, there is a stun time. We're using this some technology called fast suspend and resume, which is we are doing that for like if you are hot adding memory, hot adding CPU or memory or something like that. We also do the use same FSR, fast suspend and resume for that. So we are using the same technology. So there is a stun time, like some big VMs may not be able to do this, depending on the application that you are running. But what the point is, we'll provide that during the pre-check. We'll know what kind of VM you have, and then like we'll provide that information ahead of time. So for example, if you have 10 nodes, you may have two nodes that cannot be live patched for whatever reason, right? You have then 8 nodes that can be patched, live patched. So what you can do is you can actually take care of that 8 nodes, or first take care of 2 nodes and then take care of 8 nodes as a live patch. And then you are all fine within that cluster. I'll pause here and any question?
Yeah, there's a few that have rolled in. And again, Susie, thank you for getting some of these. But during an upgrade, will VCF create vCenter snapshots?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I think will VCF create vCenter snapshots during an upgrade? I think this may already be in.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I think so. Okay. So I need to double check. So I think the question is with this the vCenter reduced downtime upgrade.
Yeah.
So okay. So vCenter reduced downtime upgrade is coming in vCenter in next release, I believe. Or the release after that. And during that workflow, we'll allow customers to actually create the snapshot, yes.
Okay. All right. I thought I remembered a podcast even where I thought it was
Yeah,
already
so
there.
I think even today, today there is the reduced downtime upgrade of the vCenter is not available in VCF, right? So, but then they are
Okay.
going to have that
Okay.
in VCF soon. So today, I think also even today, like, if you have the regular vCenter upgrade, you can do the snapshot of the vCenter so you can revert it back, right? So,
Right.
and
Right.
then we're going to utilize the same workflow to do that.
Okay. And then during vCenter upgrades, so again, it would be related to your previous topic, but some configuration information gets lost during an upgrade. An example would be backup configuration or custom disk sizes in some cases. Are you aware of this getting addressed in the next major version?
Okay, so there are things that we are working on with the configuration profile. And configuration profile is gonna take care of this vCenter configuration as well. I don't know exactly, like how that are being handled. If that is still the case, maybe please reach out to me offline via your TAM, and then I'll look into your case.
What about managing patching at a delayed, slower level? Managing like a 20% threshold or something like that. Kind of throttling the upgrade process.
Patching. Okay, so I did not get that question clearly.
Okay, so live patch, are you still going to be able to roll it slowly across the cluster? My
Oh,
preference is to patch 20% of a cluster per day in
okay,
case
okay.
the patch causes issues.
Okay, great question. All right, so yeah, I mean, you can select which host you want to patch, right? And also the same thing with the upgrade. Today, I know in vLCM on the UI, we don't have that checkbox on the side to select which host you want to upgrade. Either it's all or individual. But then via API, we do have available. So I think we missed on the UI, and we're actually bringing that to the UI, right? So there is already an API available. There was API from day zero, but then I guess we missed that during the UX or the in a UI. So to answer that, yes, you can selectively select the which host to upgrade, which host to patch, which host to live patch.
Nice. And there's been several questions related to ELM, and Susie's addressing most of them, just how these functions maybe tie to ELM, but definitely people are interested in automation there. And I guess just confirming, you just mentioned about the ability to snapshot and upgrade. Does that change anything with the current KB about ELM and how to shut down all your
Yeah,
vCenters?
yeah.
And
So ELM, like, whenever it's a linked mode, you have to actually disconnect today and then do the operations on each vCenter, right? So until the ELM is, so there are things that we know about this issue. We want to simplify this. We are working on it. So definitely, we are going to resolve it, but then I don't have all the details of it exactly how it will be handled. We can maybe have a follow-up session sometime in the future.
that's helpful. Thanks.
Specific yeah, it's
Can I
specific
ask
to
you?
the center, and then I know a lot of customers are using ELM. And there are a lot of things that we are working on the
Mm-hmm,
ELM to simplify things. We are
mm-hmm,
aware of the situation, and it's a painful.
yeah,
And we'll solve that basically.
yeah. Good to know. What about cleaning up their download library? So they've been using LCM for a while. They've got some history, and it's just kind of all sitting there. They don't really need it anymore. Any thoughts about cleaning that up?
Okay, so today when you are downloading and when you are getting a bits from VMware, you don't automatically get all the bits downloaded. So only the metadata is showing on that drop down or on that basically the catalog, right? So catalog of the vSphere, the patches, and whatever it is, right? So those catalog only shows the metadata. And when we download is actually when you actually create a desired state image, then that's the time we know that you are actually gonna use that particular combination. Then it will be downloaded to the vCenter depot. There are two items that we're working on. One is to, like unused, download. We want that to be cleaned up after some time, right? Some old download. Definitely we want to be cleaned up. And also there is another item that we are working on is to how we can simplify, and if it's not applicable, don't try not to show those into the catalog, right? So if it's already old, you're already moved on to like the latest version of 8x, why we are still showing 7x, right? Today you will see 7x and 8x both, right? But then there can be a situation like you may have one old cluster like still need 7x bits and things like that. Maybe that's why. But then we are going to optimize that experience as well in the future.
Super. All right, I think you can go ahead and we'll keep chipping away at these.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So next thing I'm going to talk about is integration. Like I said, after the acquisition, we are one team, and then we're looking at all these, different VMware products, right? Previously was working kind of independently. Now, how we can make things simple for the entire stack, and or even if it's like an integration, one-on-one integration with certain products, how we can simplify that, right? So, with vLCM, so if you have NSX, if you have vSAN, right? So to lifecycle manage, there are, you're running some of these applications in the ESXi itself. So if there is NSX, and then, you need to also upgrade NSX waves, NSX related stuff whenever in transport nodes, right? So, or in the vSAN is actually inside the ESX vSphere itself. So, you need to upgrade all the vSAN bits and, like witness node and some other related components and things like that. So we are simplifying all these integrations. And, we are, whenever you're upgrading the ESXi, it will automatically take care of the part of the things that needs to be taken care of, either NSX or vSAN or the witness node, right? So we'll provide those kind of experience, so you don't have to do a separate task for it. But then there can be customer, like, especially with the witness node, if you have a shared witness node and, you want to actually upgrade the witness node separately at later point in time, we'll also provide that kind of flexibility for you to make that decision and have a control over it, right? So so the point is, we are trying to simplify things so you can upgrade everything within that maintenance window, and in one reboot, try to take care of things as much as possible automatically. But then at the same time, for different situations, for our various customers, their environment is different. Every infrastructure is different. For some reason, you may need some kind of a flexibility to have an option to not to do certain things. Then we'll also allow that if it's not going to harm your environment.
What about live patching for vCenter itself? So you've shown
That's
ESX, you've shown NSX.
that's a great question. So basically, so this live patch started as a vSphere. We first started focusing on vSphere ESXi host. That's the most deployed thing in our customer environment, right? So now we are expanding that live patch for other things as well, right? So if there is some vCenter vulnerability, right? So can we do live patch for vCenter? So we are already extending it to NSX. And then the other products we're gonna look into it. We just need to find some time to do some research on that. What can be live patch, what cannot be live patch, and we are going to extend the live patch feature to everything that is possible, if it's possible.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. All right. So next thing, like I said, I talk about this, how we can simplify things, how we can automate things, right? So from day zero, all right. So today we do have, so we don't have a good mechanism, especially for the VCF customer, right? So they are on their own to image the host. And then only once after the host is imaged with vSphere, then only the VCF can consume it. We do have on a vSphere side, we do have auto deploy, but then auto deploy technology was very old, and it was introduced long time ago. And then we need to enhance that because it does not support secure boot, TPM. There are like a bunch of things that it does not support, right? So then basically there we need to provide customer imaging service and provide end-to-end entire lifecycle management as soon as they receive the new server, right? So so this is a high level vision of like how we are trying to provide that simplification and end-to-end solution for our customers. So once you receive the server, we are going to have a zero touch provisioning capability, so which will image your host. And once the host is imaged with image and the configuration, the basic configuration, then that host can join actually one of these vLCM cluster, right? So Then once the VLCM cluster, basically this the cluster will have the image capability. It also has this the cluster has also configuration, and so every single host that is added to that cluster will automatically get the image and the configuration that is supposed to have. Now you can definitely provide when you after you image with zero touch provisioning, you can provide the target for that host where it needs to go and land, and it will go and land in that cluster depending on the parameters and configuration that we provide, right? So once after you have this host in the this cluster, then you do have an option to just regularly use your upgrade live patch, and then whenever you need, and then it's still part of the same cluster. But then at some point in time in the journey of that server, will be like you may want to replace it, you may want to repurpose it, and you may want to downsize from that cluster and add it to another cluster, right? So there can be many different scenarios, and when it comes to that actually point, then what we'll provide is we'll provide the same zero touch provisioning capability to some cleanup and wipe out that host, and then then it will go and join the new cluster in case of the vCenter and vSphere. But then if you have a VCF, then it will go and join the spare pool or a spare host pool. So that way you can again use that cluster, the server to another cluster or wherever, whichever workload domain you want to use to, right? And during this entire phase of the lifecycle operation will be actually checking, monitoring, pre-checks. Those are all given, and then we are adding more and more pre-checks to identify the health of the host, health of the cluster, health of the node, right? And then what to do, when to run the operations, as well as we'll also provide the notifications and capability like that to you, so you can make a informed decision. So that is I will pause here. Any question?
Yeah, there's one about the spare pool, whether you can patch those spare hosts before they get introduced into a cluster, basically, so that they can, be introduced, protected already and upgraded.
Yes. So the question is, if the host is on a spare pool, right? Can we patch it prior to actually joining the cluster, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, that is a workflow we are looking at as well, right? So there can be a spare pool, which is like, let's say in a different version. Then you may need to do is you may need to again do the provisioning, zero touch provisioning with the new image, right? And then a new configuration that is relevant to that particular cluster, and then it will go and join the cluster, right? So you can use the feature of zero touch provisioning in different ways.
Good. Is this a PXE service?
Yes. Yes. Basically, it's a Pixie service. It's so today customers are using auto deploy, right? So this is advanced feature than the current auto deploy. Basically, you can think of auto deploy 2.0. Or you can also it has a kickstart file, same thing, like it's a netboot, right? But then the technologies that we'll be using inside will be applicable with secure boot, and it will support TPM and things like that, right? So we are changing some of the underlying technology, but then also we are trying to simplify. So current auto deploy customer can actually also transition to this whenever they want. But for them, it will be either upgrade to the current with current existing all the DHCP server and all the infrastructure that they have set up. They can continue to use that, and then also like whenever they are ready in the future, then like with all the secure boot and security features and things like that, they can transition to this simply, right? So I'm trying to we're trying to minimize any disruption from going from what they have today to the new zero touch provisioning.
And what about live patching related to auto deployment? I guess as I'm looking at this Can
So,
live patch be set to auto deployment?
so so one thing I wanted to talk about is all the things that we talk about is vLCM configuration profile, right? All these things that we're building, all these technologies that we're building, they are all based on stateful host, right? So so auto deploy and zero touch provisioning will provide basically zero touch provisioning will provide stateful host. Okay, so that's why you see in that previous animation that once you zero touch provision, it will go and join the vLCM cluster, and vLCM cluster means a stateful host. Now, if you are running a stateless host, right, today, because auto deploy also supports stateless host today, right? Those are going to be transitioned to stateful to utilize the zero touch provisioning. And live patch is also kind of a stateful thing, right? So live patch you can actually use also for today. What we are introducing the live patch is only on a vLCM clusters. So there are some pre-checks and things like that that will say, hey, is it a vLCM cluster? And then yes, then it will be live patchable, right? So if you have a stateless host, then you won't be able to use a live patch.
Makes sense. Thanks.
And this slide right now, what I'm showing is talking about auto deploy to zero touch provisioning. So in vSphere 7, 8, and 9, we are supporting, we'll support auto deploy also in 9.x. We'll be announcing during the 9.x release, we'll be deprecating in the future release auto deploy stateless. Okay, it's not the entire auto deploy, but the stateless auto deploy will be deprecating it in most probably 10.x or the next release after that. So by then customer, they have a runway to transition to zero touch provisioning, which is a stateful host. So if you have any hardware that, like you're purchasing, the new hardware you are purchasing, maybe you should think about how, if you are using auto deploy stateless, think about how you can move to the stateful, so that way, you procure the hardware with a local drive, and plan ahead to get to that.
That makes sense. One more about the zero touch provisioning. Can it be used to prepare the host before they're commissioned to VCF? So again, the idea of staging up already
Yes.
patched hosts.
Yes. So that is one of the main reason we are introducing this zero touch provisioning, right? So today, unfortunately, we did not provide that imaging capability for VCF from the VMware, right? And then this will actually fill that gap. So, you can use it to image the host, so it is ready to be consumed by the VCF in a spare pool. Great question. Thank you.
And what about a hardware support manager extension? Will Zero Touch be leveraging a hardware support manager extension or all in-house?
That's a great question. So as you know, right, so HSM, Hardware Support Manager, that is integrated with vLCM. So if you, when you look at this, right, so once the zero touch provisioning happens, the next thing is it will go and land on some of the, one of the cluster, right? So by the time it's already provisioned, it is already kind of a vLCM cluster. So you can actually utilize the hardware support manager after it is being imaged, either it's in a spare pool or in the cluster. So you can use HSM integration at that point in time, and then do the firmware upgrade and things like that from that particular time.
All right, good.
Okay.
I'd say go ahead and we'll swing
Right.
back to questions as time allows it.
So another thing that we are going to introduce with this next release on actually 8.0U3 is image customization. So today vLCM actually does not allow you to customize image. If you are upgrading from one version of ESX to vSphere to another version of vSphere, then everything is like you got to take the version from version 1 to version 2, whatever the new one is, right? So we have so we have different scenarios from different customers, and then they came back to me and us to ask about like, hey, I don't want to use VMware tools because we roll the tools out separately. We have a different team. In some scenarios, like customer, they don't want to use the UI of the vSphere. They have everything automated, and they actually want to prevent their admins to log in through the UI, right? So there are different scenarios like that. And then, another scenario is like, customer, they have some of these, the firmware that was, the driver that were provided by the vendor, that the new driver does not work with their existing NIC, and the old driver was working fine, right? So in some scenario, and then vLCM does not allow you to downgrade until now, right? So downgrade actually at all. So how we can simplify this for customers? So we came up with this image customization, and where we'll be providing a drop down, and then you can actually say, hey, I wanted to use this new vSphere 8OU3, but then I will not use VMware tool, which is part of that base image, right? So I want to remove that, and because I don't want to use it. And then, but then also on the driver, like, this kind of a driver, if you had a C1 driver already, and then, that was working fine, but then the C2 driver that was, is not working with your hardware, then, you can actually say, hey, you know what? I don't want to use the C2. I do want to keep the C1, and I want to override with the existing driver, right? So you can do that, those kind of thing, as well as you can remove some of the unwanted drivers or duplicate drivers and things like that from your image. And so basically you can customize the image based on we'll have the guardrail, we'll have you won't be able to remove everything from base image, but then there are certain selected things like VMware UI and VMware tools you can remove from the base image. From vendor add-on and component section, you can do the override on almost every single driver, right? So and things like that. So that is going to be introduced with the next release. I'll pause here. Any questions?
Kind of swinging back to one about VxRail LCM and this feature, I guess. How can this be integrated with VxRail managed clusters?
So, okay, whatever we are building on a platform is applicable to VCF and VxRail. It will be applicable to VCF. And then when it's applicable to VCF, that means also it will be applicable to VxRail, right? So now if today VxRail actually is a customized, prescribed um, um, installation, right? So it will only keep, I believe, what they need. If that's not the case, then so VxRail, as a VxRail customer, if you are a VxRail customer, so the VxRail will keep only the drivers that they need. If that was not the case, they can use this technology. And when they provide you the bits, they should only provide you the bits that what you need, right? So once you get from VxRail, can you customize it after that? I am not sure about that. Maybe you want to talk to VxRail, team or the team from Dell, and we can, we can chat. You talk to them, and then we can figure out between VxRail and us how they can leverage this, right? So, but then
Yeah.
One thing is, like, if you get a prescribed bits from VxRail, I would not suggest you to go ahead and change anything after that, because there can be some workflow, there can be some pre-checks that will not work if you customize that after what you get from VxRail, right?
Right. Makes sense. Hey, when the vendors provide drivers as packages, will we be able to roll back, say, just the NIC driver, or would we have to take driver image C2, modify it, and then add it manually into vCenter?
Yeah, so most of the time, what you guys will be doing is you're gonna test this on a test environment first, right? So, and during that time, if something does not work, that's the time you're gonna find out first what is not working, or if you do some research and somebody else had some issues and somebody posted in a community or in Reddit or somewhere, then you are aware of that situation. In that case, then you can go ahead and once you log into the vCenter, right, in your test environment, and then you have all these available from vLCM from the drop down, and within that drop down itself, you can customize it and then create the image, right? So you can do it that way. You can so depending on when you find out and how you find out. Right. So if you are not aware of this situation that there was one driver that was not working properly, then you try to implement in your test environment, then you may hit the problem, and then after that time maybe you'll do some research. Oh, then you will find out oh, there was a problem. So then you will go and you'll change, or you know even without the research you can go ahead and change and override with the previous driver. Right. So.
Good. Let's keep going here. We'll don't want to use up time on your content.
Okay. So the other thing, so simplifying things, how we can help customers download stuff and things like that. So this is for the VCF, right? So offline depot in DMG. So basically, we are working on, there is a tool called OBTU, Offline Bundle Transfer Utility Tool for VCF customers, where they can actually install this and in a Linux machine, and then it will download. It is similar to UMDS for vSphere, but then this is for the VCF, right? So then you download that from the internet, all the bits that is applicable to the VCF, and then that tool will actually then transfer using its web server. You can transfer the bits to the particular workload domain wherever it needs to be landed, right? So there are some manual things, so we are going to even further enhance this experience. So this tool was already kind of built prior to the acquisition. So, but then this is going to be available in I think next release or so. And then what we're trying to do is we are even further enhance this with one tool that will help you actually build either for vSphere or the VCF stack for entire stack. We'll provide one tool that will help download everything for offline from the offline for the offline air-gapped environment. Any question on this one?
They're asking about timelines, which I know we don't really talk about. For vSphere 8.3 and VM tools is a large issue for their company, and image customization is highly desired.
Okay, yeah, I do have I can't give the actual time and dates that is subject to change, but the thing I have a overall roadmap slide after this, right? So another feature is asynchronous SDDC manager upgrade. So today, like if you have to upgrade anything in VCF, you have to upgrade the entire thing, right? So and then there are a lot of pre-checks, a lot of capabilities we are adding into SDDC manager. So, we'll provide basically only SDDC manager upgrade without touching other components. So that way you can, take the advantage of the, capabilities that are built in SDDC manager in VCF, right? So this is also, a feature that will coming out. And there is a long list of features that are, part of our overall VCF division, a lot of innovation happening. A lot of things are planned for next few releases. So okay. So in overall, right? So we talk about image customization. We talk about live patch, right? So we talk about there are like things like if you have still a VUM cluster, right? So you should transition to vLCM cluster. I think 8.0U3 is the if you haven't transitioned yet, right? So 8OU3 is the build, the release that is coming out. 8OU3 is going to be the long-term release, as well as the last release of 8X line, and you should transition to the vLCM, right? And if there is any reason that you are blocked for technical reason to upgrade to vLCM cluster, please reach out to me via your TAM. I want to understand your problem, what it is, and that then we may have already a solution, and I can be easily reachable via your TAM. So another thing is dual DPU support. We talk about that. So there are other things like offline depot bundle, asynchronous HDDC manager. We also talk about that. There are other things like flexible BOM upgrades. So in VCF environment, right? So you'll be easily able to upgrade one component at a time. So previously you have to upgrade everything, like all the BOMs all together. So but then we'll provide the flexibility to upgrade only certain particular component within the VCF, and ESXi live paths for VCF. So whatever, like all the features, when we are releasing for the VCF as well as for the platform product all together, right? So that way there is no, the capabilities that are in the platform should be also available in the VCF. So these are like, so the plan is upcoming release. And then the next release after that is basically sometime first half of next year. That is planned for next year. And zero touch provisioning, live paths for other this ESX user space that we talk about, live paths for NSX, right? Those are kind of sometime maybe sometime in next half next year, first half next year, right? So and image creation. So yeah, there is other things like like today you have to whenever you are using vSphere single image, you have to create an image per cluster. And then also you have to apply and remediate and stage everything on a cluster level. So we are going to provide a capability to create actually an image on a vCenter level. So you can use the same image instead of creating image again and again. Even though it's a metadata, it's not taking a lot of space, but then you have to, it's kind of a, you have to repeatedly do that for every single cluster, right? So you don't need to do that anymore with this feature that's coming up, global image creation at a VC and data center level, and also running the lifecycle operation from the same vCenter and data center level. You can actually trigger it, your staging, pre-check, and remediate from the vCenter level or data center level. So on the selected cluster, then it will go and run those operations on those selected cluster. Right, so those kind of capabilities we are adding to simplify your lifecycle management. Also, one-click VOM to vLCM transition. So when we are so with this upcoming release on 9.0, sometime first half next year, we'll be actually deprecating the VOM. Only clusters that are applicable with 9.x will be the vLCM clusters. So we'll be providing for the customers who are still in VOM and they haven't transitioned yet to the vLCM, we'll provide also a one-click VOM to vLCM transition, without the upgrade. So in case they can't upgrade for whatever reason, they can stay on the same 8X version, but then just the transition, flip the switch, behind the scene from the VOM operated cluster to the vLCM operated cluster. So those kind of things are also like we're providing VCF brownfield transition from VOM to vLCM. So today, like I said, like on VCF, the new clusters are vLCM clusters, but then you can say, hey, it's in a domain level, you have to flip that switch, right? So that means everything within that vCenter is vLCM cluster. So, but then with 9.x timeline around that, will be basically allowing customers to transition all their brownfield existing clusters also to the vLCM in VCF environment. So also we're looking at how we can combine, all these upgrades, all together within that maintenance window, how we can simplify things to basically, so you don't have to have like multiple maintenance window and things like that, right? So we are looking at the data plane upgrade of all that NSX, ESX, vSAN, right? So how we can simplify, within that single maintenance window. And then definitely the parallel upgrade and scale enhancement. So in for the VCF, right? So if you have a VCF environment, and how can you basically run parallel upgrades on multiple clusters, multiple workload domain, and from one single trigger and things like that. So and in a long term, like sometime after next year, we are looking at providing the time estimate for upgrades for the components, right? So if we can provide that time estimate for the components, then it will be easier for you to plan the maintenance window and kind of estimate the how long it might take to run upgrade and updates for the entire environment, or environment depending on the geolocations and things like that, right? So we want to provide those kind of information, so it will be easy for you to plan your lifecycle management. Also, like we want to use those information like time estimate to figure out, scheduling for the lifecycle operation, right? So you can schedule a maintenance window from the product itself. We'll also provide pause and restart of the upgrade, so that way, you can fit, if you have like let's say 64 node cluster, and that's not going to fit within your one maintenance window. So you can actually, if you can pause and restart, then you can make chunk of your cluster, nodes into one maintenance window, and then whatever remaining are on the other maintenance window, depending on until you finish the entire upgrade, right? So that's that. Yeah, then outbound notification, we do want to provide you, updates, some of these monitoring capabilities, auto, scaling capabilities, software, so programmatically upgrading all the nodes, right? So things like that. Um, will be looking into like recommendation engine. We'll be investing into like hardware, software, and VCF stack awareness, right? So, and how we can understand the environment and then kind of provide some recommendations for basically auto scale, for whatever is needed at that point in time, right? So we'll be investing on those kind of thing as well. So these are some long-term vision. Um, any question there?
Yeah, you've got a few
I know it's
questions.
a lot.
Right. Let's pick a couple here. Do you have a good bit more content, or how would you like to manage the time here?
Okay, so I have about 12 minutes.
Yes.
We can go for like, a few questions, 5, 10, I don't know, depending on how complicated the question is. But
Okay.
and then I have one more slide or so, and
Okay.
then if somebody wants to, I wanted to show 5 minute maybe the product itself. Like there were some questions about like how to upload and things like that, right? So.
Okay. How about password management for VCF? Anything you
Mhm.
can speak of there? Will this be centralized in SDDC Manager? There's currently 3 different vaults within the VCF environment.
That's a great question. Yes. So the first slide itself was like how we can simplify like some of these platform capabilities. So the password management, certificate management, and things like that, it will be simplified. We are looking into this, how we can do that for the entire stack. Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay, good. Um, let's see. LCM doesn't seem to work on clusters with only 2 ESXi hosts. Are you aware of issues related to that?
I'm not actually. So I would love to deep dive offline. Please reach
Okay.
out.
Okay. So maybe Nathan, work with your TAM to to provide some details on that one, perhaps. There was a question, it was kind of a follow-up to the VxRail, but specifically I want to focus on, there's a health check feature as part of VX Verify. And so we could ask a broad question that will say, does vLCM have the ability to support health check options that a vendor may provide?
Okay, so let me tell you the answer to that, right? So we have been working with vxRail team, and then what all the capabilities, all these monitoring and health check and pre-check capabilities that are going to be in vLCM and in our VCF LCM, right? So all that will be actually propagated to vxRail, right? So vxRail team, we have told them to start using our API. Previously, the VUM had no APIs, right? So there were things that they were using some command line and stuff like that. So they are moving away from that. They are integrating with our API. So, and everything that we are actually releasing will have an API, right? So it will be basically once that happens. So whenever we are releasing our pre-checks, whenever we are releasing any feature that will have a built-in pre-check, that will propagate to the VCF, that will propagate to the vxRail.
Good. There was a suggestion, maybe that two-node issue was related to admission control. So thank you for that suggestion. We'll see where that fits in. And what about versioning? So do vCenter and ESXi have to be on 8 in order to take advantage of the features discussed today?
Yes, so that's a great question. Our recommendation is you upgrade the vCenter first, and then, because, what we are building is there are capabilities on some capabilities on ESXi, but then lifecycle management is basically on a vCenter because vLCM is embedded in the vCenter, right? So the pre-checks and things like that, some of the things that, we have, mainly that are built in vCenter. And then there are components that needs to be like, if we send a call to the ESXi, hey, will this work with this current version of ESXi to the next upgrade? Then the ESXi need to reply, in a response saying, yeah, it will work or it will not work, right? So basically what you need to do is you need to upgrade the vCenter first, and then upgrade the ESXi, right? That should be the one golden rule.
Rupesh, Susie had asked me to send you this whole list of Q&A, and I'll be doing that. So you'll have historical reasons. But there was one more answer related to that two-node and admission control, just simply that LCM says it's disabling admission control, but doesn't seem to correctly do that on in some instances. So
okay, I'll double check
yep,
on that. I have to
sure,
check with engineering and
sure.
understand that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Why don't you go ahead? We'll swing back at the
So
end here.
I think this is maybe my last slide. So I do wanted to reiterate, so we'll be removing VUM in vSphere 9.0. We announced about the deprecation with vSphere 8, right? So here on the top. So with vSphere 9 release, we'll be removing VUM. So if you are not using a vLCM, 8.0U3 next release, will solve most of the problems. And if there was any issue with the image customization that you may need require for your environment, that will be solved. So you should go to 8.0U3 and transition to vLCM with 8.0U3, right? So and some of the other announcement for the future. I think there was a session about the vSphere configuration profile, right? So also this that will replace the host profile. So we'll be announcing to deprecate host profile and stateless auto deploy with vSphere 9 release. And then in the next release, you will actually remove the host profile and then the stateless auto deploy, right? So these are like the major release. I'm not talking about the minor release like 8.0U1, 8.0U2, 8.0U3, right? So it's 8 and 9, those are the major release, right? So with that, that's my last slide. I still have 5 minutes. Maybe I would like to go and so there were a few questions about like, oh, how do I upload and things like that, right? So let me go ahead and show that. If you have yeah, you go to the main, and then you go to Lifecycle Managers, service, and then first of all, I want to show you the settings. There is a page setup, right? So these are these are automatically there. So you don't have to download if your vCenter is automatically, if your vCenter is connected to the internet, right? So these depots are there, and then you automatically get the download, and then those downloads will appear over here in either it's an image or the vendor add-on or the component. So once they are here, then you will see from the vLCM dropdown, right? So in the vLCM, I will go that later over there. But then before I jump, I wanted to show you another thing, like how you can change your download source to UMDS. So you click here and then you change your download source to UMDS, right? That's one other way of downloading the images and the add-on via UMDS, right? And there was another question about how I can upload the zip file. So if you have an ISO, vendor provided ISO, right? So you can't upload an ISO into vLCM, but then you can upload the zip file into the vLCM. So you can download the vendor provided zip file, or you can. I will show you also how you can create a zip file, right? So once you have that zip file, or you can browse it and then you upload it. So basically, on the action there is import updates, and that's how you upload it. Okay, and then now let me. So there is some image remediation settings right here, right? So let me go back to vSphere inventory. Oh yeah, so this is actually still this is a vSphere 7. I just installed this in my lab to show you how you can actually update. It's pretty simple and easy to, the transition to vLCM is not like migration or anything. It's just a flag that will say, hey, now these four nodes in the clusters are managed by a single image. That's what it is, basically, nothing else, right? So and then actually this is already upgraded as an image. So, if you want to select, right? So once you have that image, like in that depot, the catalog that I showed you, either the image or the vendor add-on or a component, then only you will be able to find it over here. So you can also add the component, like custom component. You're like, you can upload it from there, and then it should show up over here, right? So, and in the add component section. So these are additional components. And there is a setting for you may need to change the setting to the lowest level. So the custom components can be seen here. And then for the vendor add-on, there was a question how I can figure out what is the vendor add-on I should use. All right, so like, let's say, let me go to Dell, right? So there is you will see, like, for 7X, you will see like this, but on 8X release, there is one, and then you, from the drop down, you will see like 8OU1, 8OU2, 8OU3, things like that. So you'll find some information you may need to look into. And we want to simplify this as well. Right now, today, we saw everything, but in the future, like, I'm working with some team to figure out how we can just, once we have that awareness of your, infrastructure and application that are running, right? So we should be able to filter down and just show via recommendation engine only the things that is applicable to you. All right, so I'll stop here.
Well, this was fabulous. We're right up against the right up against our timeline. I know there are some questions unanswered, and I am sorry that we couldn't get to them all. Please do work through your TAM to get any of those addressed that that you did not. And Rupesh, you gave us you nearly broke the webinar today with all this great content and the questions that it generated. I really appreciate the participation of everyone here. And so thank you so much for your time, the great work you're doing. And And folks on the webinar, do plan to join next month, where we're going to be looking again at NSX upgrades and day 2 operations. Your TAM will be getting that invite out to you, and do watch for this recording. They'll again get you that link, and I know I'm going to have to go back and watch it again, and I suspect you'll want to as well. So thanks much all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.